The ongoing horsepower wars in Europe have seriously undermined the muscle car's main party trick. And the big American bruisers have rarely been competitive as track cars or focused driving machines.
But now, we have the Hellcat Challenger and the Camaro Z28, the tops of their lineups and out to change perceptions.
And for us, this means 2 cars, 1,200 horsepower, and one amazing road.
I am currently in the Dodge Hellcat Challenger. That's right, the 700 horsepower Dodge Hellcat Challenger.
And you think, okay, so is it more than just a burnout machine? There's videos all over the internet about just burnouts in the Hellcat. And thank God they're putting this engine into the Charger too. But you can't do burnouts everywhere you drive. It's just not feasible. It's fun, it's cool, but I want to know, is there something more to this car than just smoky burnouts? Yes, there are other cars with far more power. You think you can find examples of 1,000 horsepower cars or 1,200 or more. But for cars that I can think of that are stock from the manufacturer, this is as much power as I've ever had. And you know what? I'm so glad that America, well, Canada, has helped us out and built this car, but that Fiat Chrysler has released this.
It's crazy how high up into the ranks of supercars you have to go before you find 700 horsepower again. You've got to go like Pagani Huayra to get back up into a car that has on paper as much power as this does. Astounding power for the everyman at an almost affordable price.
Now, the Challenger has been around for a while in this body style. They've made a few tweaks here and there. The clip in the front, the clip in the rear, they're a little bit different. What I do like about the exterior styling of this car is that it's subtle. I mean, you've got to kind of look close, and it's invisible to most people on the freeway.
There are some nice refinements here, just little touches. However, it should have a Hellcat badge on it. Now, I know they're talking about bringing it, and thank you, Dodge, for making a car that has a name, not just a series of numbers and letters.
For me, where it comes down to is the interior. I really like what Chrysler is doing with their interiors. It feels robust. It doesn't feel cheap any longer. The materials are right, and the seats in this car, even though they're huge and wide, this is a comfortable car.
Finally, they've taken the Challenger and they've brought it up to date with the rest of the current Dodge interiors, which are pretty nice. Of course, a lot of these plastics on the dash, etc., those are carried over from the car that'll cost you $30,000, so those aren't great. But the actual touch points and the inserts, those have been upgraded to Alcantara. It's a leap better than the interior on the prior Challenger.
The engine turned dash here, all these materials, even though this is plastic, it looks good, it's tasteful.
If there's a technology you would like in your modern car, it comes on this big boy Challenger. The back seats, of course, aren't really usable, but that makes it about the same as all the German 2+2 Grand Tourers. The seats are very nice. There's a lot of usable space in here because, of course, this car is huge.
Now, usually it's quoting stats. It's not something Todd and I care about, especially when it just comes to the day-to-day feel of a particular car, except in this one.
There's no question that the party piece of this car is that Hellcat engine.
Not in any other car have I just been obliterating traffic and looking down and going, I cannot believe I was going that fast. It's not made for twisty roads. It's made for long stretches like this. Wow.
It's like driving barely harnessed destruction. There's so much torque here. I mean, when you find yourself on the freeway, whatever gear you're in, you want to pass somebody. I started that thing where you're getting used to a new car and you look down and you think, what gear am I in? What gear do I need to be in? It doesn't matter. Just put your foot down.
The gearing on this car is so tall. I was driving to the airport in third, and I looked down, realized I'm doing well over 80.
The thing about the Challenger in normal traffic, though, is you're just kind of teasing it. Honestly, in normal driving situations, it's going to be rare that you use more than 10% of the throttle travel, because there's so much power. Any more than that, and you're absolutely flying far faster than you should be going. In fact, I have a suspicion that the Challenger is powerful enough to start in 6th gear. You know what? I want to test that. I'm going to test that theory. Hang on. I'm sure I'll have to write it, but let's see. Trying. Come on, girl. Yep. I am currently rolling in 6th gear. Now doing 30 at 6th, and we're coming up on boost for real, and all of a sudden the car, I could probably go 0 to 200 miles an hour in this car in 1 gear.
One of the many reasons I want this car is because it's like an industrial wood chipper for nature. It sucks deer and moose and everything into the maw of this car. That is just evil coming out of the back end of this car.
I have to think if you owned this car, it would be really hard to get bored of this exhaust note and just the sheer thrust that is available. More power than you're going to use 95% of the time you own this car. You're going to have to seek out places just to try to put your foot to the floor.
What's strange is the character of this clutch is far more suited to the Z28. This one just feels brutal. So you can get the automatic in this car as well, but you want the manual. You want to know that you have to wrestle this car and work.
The Challenger does come with 2 different key fobs. It comes with a red key fob, which we have, and a black key fob, which we don't. The black key fob reduces this car to 500 horsepower, so if your valet happens to wear a tracksuit or is named the Stig, then he's still happy. And that black key fob with reduced horsepower is now as much horsepower as the Z28 has all the time.
So this car has sport mode. It also has track mode. It's fully loaded. It's 62 grand. Everything that Chrysler can throw at this car. So it changes the throttle response, the steering, it changes the suspension, and then you start to throw this car around.
Here is a car over 2 tons. It's almost 700 pounds heavier than the Z28. Think about that for a minute. And yet, it's genuinely agile for a car this size. Now, there's a lot more body roll than there is in the Z28. And it gets unsettled and doesn't recover nearly as well either. But when you consider how much heavier a car this is and how big this car is in general, it's actually quite impressive.
At no point does the weight sort of hide itself, and the car doesn't exactly hike up its skirt and dance nimbly through the mountain corners here. It can do it. I'm not having that much fun. It's not a delight, and there's not a lot of steering feedback on this car.
What's surprising is that this Hellcat has hydraulic steering. However, there's actually not a lot of information, and it's a little bit too light for the sheer size of the car. So the result is you feel a little bit disconnected to the steering information. You can make this car dart pretty quickly down a back road like this, but you're working a lot harder at it than you are in the Z28. This is not a tight corners car, but it is a big car that corners.
Ugh. I need to be 100 pounds heavier to drive this car because I'm too thin to fit in these seats. I'm being thrown around because this car will grip through these corners, but it's not exactly fun.
This is like a big girl who's also really athletic. She's up for anything and she wants to do everything. There's just a few things that someone half her size would be better for, like gymnastics.
So the answer to the question about, is there more to the Hellcat than just burnouts? Well, yeah, there is. There's so much more. But it all revolves around the power.
This Challenger's always been a car over 4,000 pounds. It's always been heavy. So you can't get away from that just by trying to do a Hellcat engine. But Dodge has done an amazing job of making a pretty well-rounded car here.
I cannot, in my right mind, sit here and tell you, sure, you're shopping in some category and you want a good car that's going to tick off all these boxes and economical and whatever. No, the Hellcat is, you just want it. There's no good reason for this. There's no justification. And I think everybody's fine with that.
And the new Challenger's kind of always been the best of the muscle cars for just cruising attitude. And this maintains that, except it adds that extra layer of genuine agility and an amazing engine.
It seems like every video on the internet, when you look up Hellcat, it's just endless burnouts.
It's just, here's how I destroyed my tires.
Yeah.
This was my Tuesday. I now have no tires.